Hey everybody, welcome back to another week of Adobe Live. Really good to have you. I'm Kathleen Martin and I'm here with my new friend, Tyler Pate. Welcome, Tyler.
Hello, hello. Thank
Good
you.
to have you back. I think this is not your first time on the live stream, right?
That's right. This is actually my second time.
Yes. Cool. So we're going to be streaming for the next 2 days with Tyler, doing some awesome digital illustration in both Photoshop and Illustrator. I think we're going to be in Illustrator today. But before we jump into it, chat, I just want to let you know that we have a full day of streams ahead of us after this one. So if you want to check that out, you can either look below us or look on the live stream right now. We had our Daily Creative Challenge with Val right before this. We've got Vector Art with Tyler right now, more Daily Creative Challenges. And then we have something called Creative Encore happening at 2:30, which is basically like we're going to replay a previous stream, but the chat is going to be open. So we can hang out in there and chat with each other. It's going to be great. So I'm going to throw it over to Tyler to introduce himself. And I have his portfolio up on my screen. Maybe we can show some of his work as well. So Tyler, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, hello everyone. My name is Tyler Pate. I'm a graphic designer and illustrator. I freelance at Tyler Pate Design Co. And I'm also the founder and creative force behind the Creative Pane, which is kind of a fun little interactive company where I'm able to share a lot more of the behind the scenes and just create a bunch of fun illustrations for other people to find inspiration from. And there's a whole bunch of fun products involved with that too. I've been doing this for about 8 years now, full-time on my own for the past year and a half. So I've kind of grown through the pandemic as a freelance professional, and it's been quite an interesting thing, which this is where I've met Adobe and was able to do cool things like this.
Awesome. I'm excited to hear more about your history and the last year of growing for you. We're sharing your portfolio right now, and it looks like you do a lot of really beautiful textured work with like a vector. You're welcome. A vector kind of underlaying. So I'm excited to see your process. Let's jump into it. What are we making today?
All right. So as you saw, I tend to do a lot of vector-based illustrations, and then later in the process, I love to add details and texture as much as I can. And I think Photoshop's been the best for that for me. So I thought it would be fun. So this weekend, whenever I was thinking of like, what could I do for this? Because I just couldn't think of a really good sketch or a concept. So I was just going for a walk. So if anyone ever has, problems with coming up with ideas, I found that really you do have to step away sometimes. And I was going for a walk with my girlfriend, and I had this fascination for old vintage cars. So any little car that's, I don't know, a little squatty or just funny, it looks like a Pixar car, I tend to always take a picture of it and kind of put it in a bank. And I was like, well, this is a perfect time for a bank shot. So I pulled this out, and I actually took this this Saturday on my walk, and it's just a little Honda Civic. And I don't know, I think it's very funny because I'm going to use this as like a reference point for this entire illustration, but I'm going to show you some ways to really make it your own and personalize it to just have fun with it. And then I was doing a little quick sketch of where I want to go with it. So I'm going to try to, have the wheels on a single plane like you see here, but this is the main reference.
Awesome. I think the squattiness and boxiness of this is going to be perfect for vectors and kind of building a blueprint. And people in the chat are very excited about these boxy old cars.
There's
That's
something
awesome.
about it. Yeah.
I know. It reminds me of my first car.
Yeah? What was your first car?
It was a Civic as well, just
Nice.
Probably a little newer. I think it was like a 2000 maybe.
Okay.
Just flat 2000. And chat, if you let us know if you are of driving age, what was your first car? I'm curious to know. Okay, so we're dropping points.
Dropping some points. So I already pre-planned a little bit of this. So the only thing that I've done in setting up my file is I have about 3 layers. If you look to the left of my screen, I have a reference layer, which is everything that you see, such as this image, my sketch, and some of the colors that I'm potentially going to use. I have all that on one layer. I'm going to usually lock those layers just so I don't ever have to touch them or move them by mistake. And then I'm going to have a background layer. The background layer is simply just the color that I'm going to have behind my illustration. And then for the actual drawing, I'm going to have that as a unlocked layer, which I'm going to be doing everything on.
Very nice. I feel like layers in Illustrator can be the unsung hero of an Illustrator document.
They really are, especially whenever you start going into like these crazy details. There's a few illustrations where I had not used layers, and it's just a painstaking going back and trying to lock, unlock, lock, delete just to find one little thing.
Oh my gosh.
It's a pain.
Yeah, totally. I find myself sometimes using groups as layers, like jumping into the group, double clicking into it. And I'm like, why am I not just using layers like I should?
Yep. It's one of those things like going through school, I was the same way where I just built everything in one layer. And I think it wasn't until I started using references is when I really changed, because as you see, I'm in outline mode for that whole layer I'm drawing on. So what that helps me do is I'm able to draw on top of anything without my drawing or artwork getting in the way. So that's kind of what changed it and forced me to do it from the beginning.
Oh, I just noticed the butterfly sun shield as well.
Yeah.
Goodness. So I'm guessing you're somewhere warm if there's the need for a sun shield.
Yes, I'm in LA.
Oh, gotcha. Definitely warm.
So let's see. And when I'm drawing things like this, I've sort of made this a series without knowing, because I've done, I think this is my third or fourth squatty car, if you want to label it like that. But I kind of play with each one the same way, because I'm not quite sure where it's going to go, but I have a vague idea. Like that sketch is my vague idea. Like I know it's going to look something like that, but whenever you get in here, you start to realize like, oh, these angles are drastically different. Like I'm sort of playing it out right now, because as I'm illustrating this image, it's in a perspective. So I'm going to have to find a way to understand the shapes and then flatten it and then create it the way I want. So I'm just going to play around real quick. So bear with me here. And this is a great time to just understand the process, because it can really bite you sometimes, but sometimes it could be pretty relaxing.
Nice. And in the chat, people are dropping their first cars. So Eric had a Ford Mustang hatchback. Never even heard of a hatchback Mustang.
Wait, I haven't either.
What? Eric, is that real? I bet it is, because it's from 74. Sounds like a very 74 thing.
Nice.
Catherine had a 2003 Miata, had to learn a stick real fast.
Oh, nice.
Ain't no better way. Wow. Lots of interesting cars in here. I'm impressed, chat. Very impressed. Paloma says I had to climb through the trunk to unlock the door. The things we do for our cars.
You know what? I think I need to dim this image a little bit. It's sort of getting in the way.
Cool. I love these template layer options that we can jump into. You can either lock things, dim them.
Exactly.
Make them work for you.
Yeah, that's the perfect element to these layers. Like being able to do this is so helpful, especially when you're trying to figure it out on the fly. I think I'm going to just create this bumper from just looking at it, because we're only trying to create something new that's an idea of the car, not necessarily trying to create the car exactly.
Gotcha. That's a perfect use for reference. Not copying it, but using it as a guide.
Yeah. So if it looks a little different, hopefully a little more squattier than the original, then we got ourselves a good car.
There you go. Hashtag squatty cars.
Exactly. My first car, actually, I think it was a Chevrolet Tahoe. It was my mom's, and it got passed down to me.
There you go. That's always nice.
Yeah.
It was heirloom.
Definitely. Definitely thankful for it at the time, but I couldn't drive that now. It's just too big for me.
There you go. In chat, you've told us about all of your first cars. What's your dream car?
Ooh,
Woohoo.
that's always a good one. So what's yours?
Oh, some sort of used electric vehicle.
Okay.
That's my only real need.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, not super picky. I drive a
Yeah.
Prius right now, so that's where I
Nice.
am. That's my life.
What do you think about the Teslas?
I'm a fan of a Tesla, but I'd want a secondhand Tesla,
Mm-hmm.
both for price and just sustainability
For sure.
reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about you? Are you a Tesla fan?
Yeah, I really like them. I don't own one, but I definitely am a fan of the S model.
Oh, is that
So
the like lower or not lower, but entry level?
no, that's the when they
Oh,
first started coming out, and it was the four-door fast one.
oh, gotcha.
But I would get a used one too. They are kind of expensive.
Just a little.
Hmm.
Ernesto says that his dream car is the DeLorean.
Oh, nice. That's a good one.
Understandable. So, what is the shortcut that you're using to kind of skew things?
So what I'm doing with this, I'm just selecting the points that I'm skewing. Since it's a, if you have any sort of rectangle or, shape with four sides like this, you just select those 2 points and I drag them around. But what you can do to skew an object, which is a really good thing I'll use quite a bit. Let's say if you had this square, you can do, what is it? If you just mash E on the keyboard, you see how the cursor changes?
There you
It
go.
changes to this little skew angle, and you're able to grab either side of this shape and skew it however you want. This is a dream tool for me. I use it a lot.
Yeah. Wow. I bet that would be great for when you're making like isometric
Oh,
illustrations.
exactly.
And Dinesh in the chat is saying, I'm new to Illustrator. Where should I start? Dinesh, I think you're in the right place.
I would say, what helped me the most whenever I was starting out and illustrating, I could clearly see a distinct pattern in my performance, I guess you could say, when I started actively creating challenges for myself. And I was just coming up with series just for fun. Like I think the first one I ever did, I was having fun with pop culture hats. So I literally was looking through all these cartoons for hats. And I was like, what is the most iconic hat that you could have? And then how minimal could you make that in vector? So think about a good one, the cat in the hat. That's a classic, right?
Yes.
So that was day one, and then I just went on and on and on until I think I might have gotten 30 or so before I finally started getting just lost for ideas.
Not that many hats out there.
Well, really not whenever you're trying to get a few that people could actually name. I started getting into, I think it was like Pirates of the Caribbean, and I was like, all right, this looks like any other pirate hat I've ever seen. I think we're done.
There you go. You knew when to stop.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip. Make your own challenges. And Dinesh, if you are totally new to Illustrator, not even sure how it works, you should join one of the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenges. They're built for beginners. You can follow along for 2 weeks and learn all the basics. So we have one coming up later today.
Nice. Yeah, that's really the best way to do it. I have a lot of people ask, how do you get to that level, or how do you, work in perspective, or how do you get, or this is a good one, how do you get your illustration to look like that? And I was like, I don't know what that is because I'm just drawing half the time, but I will say that what I wanted whenever I was starting out was to understand the tools a little better. It's like, what does that tool do? And then I just kind of, went off the deep end with it.
There you go. You became like a pro in just a single tool at a time.
Yeah, and let's be honest, that was at least, 3 years solid of, Monday through Sunday. I had a day job with an agency I was working with at the time, and I would work my day job, doing graphic design for, print media, mostly web design and digital media. But at the end of the day, when I clocked out, I just went straight to just illustrating for fun. And I was doing things, I would also do things internally for the company. It's like, oh, here's a cool little thing. Let's promote this. So I created series like that. And before you know it, you kind of lose track of time and you're like, wow, what did I do the past three years? But you kind of walk out with, okay, I can comfortably, illustrate some of these things without, getting upset that I can't do it.
Yeah, you basically put yourself through night school,
Essentially, yeah.
your own night school.
You have to be obsessed with it. At least I had to. I think a lot of my friends and family knew it. It's when you're going to gatherings, or even for me, I think I started that job when I was 23 or 22. So I was in a pretty popular town, and going out and partying with friends and having a good time is very easily done. But I wasn't doing that. I was working and illustrating, and if I did go out, I was the weirdo that went out, and then at 11 or 12 a.m. that night, I would go back home and start illustrating more because I had an idea.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is really dedication. I'm impressed.
It was weird because people are like, well, where are you going? And I'm like, oh, I need to go finish an illustration I was working on. And they're like, right now? Like, yeah, right now.
I know what I got to do. So
Yeah.
was that drive always within you, or did it come kind of out of nowhere?
I've always enjoyed just creating stuff. It's like I have, I think a lot of people have these ideas, or it's like, oh, I want to do that, or oh, I've sketched this in my sketchbook. I hope to get to that one day. I just always would beat myself up. It's like, well, I have to get to it, like, because otherwise it's never going to get done and it's never going to exist. So I kind of let that be, the dictator for it.
That's a good way to call it, your internal dictator.
It really is. I mean, trust me, there's plenty of times where I'll go through spells of not being inspired at all. I just recently went through it. I did a October challenge this past October. It was one of those like a Inktober type deal, but it was
Right.
for illustrating, and I did it all in vector. And it was 31 days of grueling. By 15, I was just exhausted because I was also working and then trying to get these daily challenges, and I was spent. After that, what was it? November, December, I sort of took time off. So you have to know yourself a little bit when it comes to those, because it's not worth burning out and then, how are you going to get back to the job?
Right. Wow. I'm proud of you for taking those 2 months off.
Seriously.
Can be hard to do.
At least I took the 2 months off on fun illustrations. Put it
Yeah.
that way.
Still got to pay the bills.
Still got to pay the bills. Still got to work. Yeah.
Yeah. In the chat, Amy Hood says, props to anyone who can do all of Inktober. You're made of sterner stuff. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. I've never made it through. I'm
It's-
not the stern type.
It's interesting. It really is. I think it's more an effect. I start to notice it on everyone else than myself. I notice it after I finished it. It's like, wow, I'm not doing that again. Or, I'm going to definitely take some time off. But in the moment, I think everyone else around me notices it. And that's kind of an interesting thing that I realized. Because they're like, what's that?
No, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, no, it's just funny that sometimes you get so obsessed with something that you don't notice that, you're eating dinner at the table and you're working at the same time. And it's like, oh man, I really get obsessed with these illustrations.
Wow, you're in deep.
Seriously.
We've got new friends joining in the chat. What's up, Dustin? Clever, Jordan, hello. Merle says creative pain. So I'm guessing that
Nice.
Inktober was one of those creative pain moments.
That's exactly it. That's the whole, one of the reasons I came up with that brand was I started to realize that the problems of, being a professional designer and illustrator and also really enjoying it is you sort of lose that boundary of, is this fun for play or is this work and seriousness? And with that, you have to understand the balance of things. And, if, like what I just described, face first, diving into something and sort of losing yourself is fun, but sometimes you find that you can burn out, or whenever you're trying to get back to work, it's hard. You might not have the idea, or the pressure is really getting to you.
Mhm.
And that's the creative pain, because I think everyone goes through it. You could talk to musicians, you can talk to writers. That's called writer's block. It's the same thing.
Yeah, I think I heard or read recently about a writer who is an amazing writer, but they don't actually enjoy writing, like the actual
Interesting.
act of it. And I'm like, that's possible? But
Yeah.
totally, like with any craft, it's not gonna be fun all the time.
Mm-hmm. And I like to say that too, where sometimes it is work. You kind of have to understand that it could be work, but understand that you can get through it, and it's part of the process. That's why I always like to tell people, just trust the process. That's all you have to do, just trust the process. If you don't know it today, you just got to kind of work a little harder. You'll get through it.
Yeah, I think you'll always be better for it on the other side.
Exactly.
So true. So in chat, somebody was asking, Tyler, do you listen to music while you work?
It's a lifesaver. Yes.
Yeah? Okay, what do
Yeah.
you listen to?
It's a mixture. I think what I've been listening to lately is MF Doom, because his recent passing, which sucks. But I don't know. I find various music. Let's see, what else? 9 Inch Nails, I'm a huge fan of. Jack White, anything Jack White, I'm in love with. The Racketeers are great. The Black Keys, I love. What else? Radiohead's good.
Agreed.
All these dream clients, I hope I get a chance to work with one day. I don't know.
Okay, we'll clip this video out of
Seriously.
here and send it to them.
If anything, yes.
So you said that you hope to do a poster with them?
Oh,
before
yes. Yes, I follow a lot of really talented artists, and I'm seeing some opportunities that they get to illustrate for these people, and I'm just like, okay, it's possible. That's all I need to know. It's like, it's possible. I just need to figure it out from here. And that's sometimes what I see, and it's like, okay. Jack White works with other artists a lot for poster designs, and there's a lot of tour dates at some point. So we'll just wait until that happens.
I like that way of thinking.
Yeah. All right, so I'm trying to figure this out live. This is interesting. So I'm trying to see if I want to go perspective back to where it was, or should I go on the same plane like this? So let's see what the chat says. Should we go super squatty, all four wheels on the same ground, or should we go perspective? Which, if you know my work, I tend to do that. So I'll let you guys decide if you can.
Okay, chat. Perspective, squatty. What do we think? I know what I think, but I'm going to hold back
Okay.
till everyone else shares. Do you have a preference as well, Tyler?
Well, I'm leaning towards this squatty one because it's new, but I also don't want to disappoint going live in some new stuff. That's the honesty there. But I'm fine with either. There's like there's a comfort zone, and then it might work. Yeah.
Oh, I'm seeing a lot of perspectives in the chat.
Okay. And you know what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to grab this little squatty one, and I'm going to drag him over here, where he's probably going to live for a little bit. And I'm going to pursue this. So I did this really cool V-dub van a while back, and it's a perfect situation for this that we're doing, because I was trying to do a squatty car with it, and I was doing it live with Wacom, and halfway through I was like, this isn't working, and I was just saying that to myself the whole time, and then I finally broke through where I was like, oh, I needed to move this one angle, and then it finally made sense, and then it started all clicking together, and it actually became, I think, one of my favorite car illustrations I've done, which is funny. Yeah, it's like you never know sometimes. So sometimes it does take just problem solving.
Yeah, and just being willing to make those quote unquote mistakes.
Seriously, yeah, it's sometimes all it takes.
Just trust that process.
I know, I'm a broken record when it comes to it.
But it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have the squatty squad in the chat.
Hashtag squats.
Yes, squats with 2 T's.
Yeah. Yeah, we gotta define it so it's not working out. We're not talking about working out here. We're
No,
talking
no,
about
no.
talking about illies.
Vectors and pixels and all the good
Seriously.
things.
That's what we want.
Do you even push, bro?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you even, I don't know. Do you even pin drop? I don't know.
Okay, chat, we need some
Yeah.
workout related illustration humor in the chat. Let's go. And I'm at a loss, so I'm just gonna wait for chat to tell me.
Do you even layer? I don't know.
Yes. Nope, got nothing.
Nothing. I don't blame you.
Too much going on.
All right, this is gonna be the redemption. Oops. All I'm doing, it by the way, is I'm just plotting a bunch of points and using that reference down below as much as I can. Because the funny thing that I found with illustrating these types of things is every reference image is typically different, such as the angles are usually off. Even if you're the one, like I took this picture myself on my phone, so I had full control here, right? But I guarantee that when I took this angle of this car, it's not like the last time I took an angle of a car.
Yes.
So it's always slightly different, and it could be a little discouraging whenever you're in it.
Right. So do you feel like you have kind of a visual dictionary now about like how a bumper might bend? If your reference isn't perfect, you can kind of be like, oh, I kind of know it's going to be this though.
Yeah, well, especially whenever I'm illustrating in these angles like this, I typically know that it's only made up of about 4 different angles, and I'm just repeating those angles throughout the whole illustration. And you'll start seeing that come to life here soon.
Oh, I believe it. I see it already.
Just got to get past the not sure phase.
Right. It's hard to do live. I know what you mean.
Let's see. I think that if I was to have that there, put some pins there. There we go.
Oh.
And then we can
Wow, I don't think I've ever seen the smart corners used that way.
Yeah,
it's very cool.
Comes in handy, that's for sure. So now that I have that, I have like a genuine angle that's curved here, and I'll duplicate that and start using it. Because this bumper's cascades downward. Like that. Yeah.
Oh.
I'm gonna cut that. So the only trick now is the fact that it didn't finish. But lucky us, we're just trying to create an idea of this car, right?
Right. It's hard to remind yourself that, like, at the end of the day, no one's going to see the reference image. No one's going to see your sketch. They just see the final.
That's exactly it. And, you know, I would never typically talk about the kind of car it is. I just like, oh, I did this, you know, squatty little van or squatty little car. It's like Pixar. That's what I love about Pixar's illustrations and the artists that can do those. It's so cool because you define it as being from those movies, and you can sort of see the reference of, oh, that's probably a station wagon or some sort of Volkswagen, but it's not, which is really cool to think, which I like to do that and look at them and try to guess what car it is.
Yes. And like, how few lines can I use to make this readable like it is? What kind of angles do I need? What curves?
Exactly.
I think one of my favorite weightlifting illustration jokes is about weight, like the weight of the stroke in line that you use.
Okay.
Like, what weight stroke do you even use, bro? Do you even lift?
Seriously.
And I can't really tell from the illustrations I'm looking at right now, but I'm guessing you don't really use like a stroke on most of your shapes.
No, not typically.
More of a fill kind of guy.
Yeah, there's some people out there that I admire a lot that could do really cool looking stroke vector work, and sometimes I'll play around with it. I sort of did for the Inktober October thing, but I love feels for some reason, and just like, oh, let's put textures in this, and then whenever I start trying to combine the textures with strokes, I'm like going back to what I usually go for, and I'll stick with it.
Ooh, a little shape builder.
It's also a really good tool.
I hate to interrupt, but I always get so excited when people use it because a lot of people are like, shape builder, what's that?
Mm-hmm. I'm a huge fan of creating shapes, using the shape builder tool, copying that, and then Command Z about 2 times back so I can delete the excess of the shapes, and then I'll do a place, like a paste into that puts it right back where it was. Because what I've found is if you shape build a lot of stuff, there's usually a couple of nodes and points that are scattered that you don't see but are in the file. So I found that helps eliminate a lot of that.
That is a really good pro tip. I noticed the same thing. There's always like a little, almost like a pizza slice here or there.
Yep. Exactly. So this is a good example of that. So let's say I'm gonna shape build this right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and have that shape made, select it. I'm using Command C, I'm gonna copy that, and then I'm gonna do Command Z and go back to before I made it into a shape. And then I'm just gonna select that shape, delete it, and then Command F, which now we're just left with only that shape.
Yes. Perfect, and it lines up, it's pixel perfect.
Yep, exactly. All right, let's see what we can do here. I'm gonna use same angle. All right, so this is where I'm gonna start making it my own, because my perspective is gonna be a little different from where this car is, which is what I wanted to begin with. Because again, I think there are plenty of illustrators out there who can do illustrations of cars that look just like the car, and I think it's awesome. But I don't typically go for that. I like something that is inspired by the object I was going after, rather than look identical. Because then you start. Go ahead.
No, please. You.
I was gonna say I get lost in. It's like likeness of a person. If you've ever illustrated a person, you'll realize that you could tell when it's not that person. It just looks like someone. But whenever you start to get the likeness, you're like, oh, that's whoever. That's John Travolta.
Everyone draws John Travolta at some point in their life.
Yeah, I usually, use the ink blob or something. Blob tool is good for John Travolta shape.
But you're so right. And also when you're trying to kind of copy something so specifically, you get really lost in the sauce. Like you can go too far, too perfect, and then it looks like almost like a computer made it.
It does. It's like generic.
Yes.
I think a lot of times I've done this in the past, but I found it'll get to a point where it's like, oh, this looks like clip art. And then it's like, all right, I can't do this. It's like, what am I trying to do here? I'm not trying to make emojis.
Although that would be fun.
It would be. All right, we got a bumper. Let's see what we can do for this.
I like the generic license plate. That's just a piece of paper.
I actually photoshopped the tag number off. I didn't want to put somebody on blast.
They'd get a really nice custom illustration of their car, though.
Yeah, seriously. I was thinking about this. Like, it'd be funny if the person, for whatever odds, was like, "Oh, that's my car.
Yeah.
Why are you taking a picture of my car?" And then I'd be like, "Yeah, squat for days, you know."
Yeah, like join the club. Come on, squad squad.
It's like Squirrel Squad.
Exactly. Nice. I'm excited for tomorrow when we see a little bit of color, some texture
Exactly.
added to these shapes.
Yeah, it should be nice. Because it definitely makes a difference once you start playing with color. And that's a whole another thing too. You can make and break something with color.
Oh yeah, scary.
Yeah. So hopefully that would help some people out there. At least how I handle color. Which, it's only one way of doing it. That's how I say it. Plenty of ways of doing this. This is where it gets confusing, but this is how I'm going to get the angle of the light that I wanted. Because I'm going to use the bumper angle to give me the curve that I need.
Magic workflow. Love it.
So that top and bottom should be the same curvature of the bumper. And you know what helps too? This is a little quick tip. If you ever have a larger illustration similar to this, I sort of jump around. I might say focus on one piece for a little bit, but I tend to get a little bored.
Yeah.
So I'll switch it up. So this wheel should be interesting to do. Say the rim, copy, Command F. So drag from center. That'll give us our tire. Copy, Command F, drag from center, but inward. That'll be the lip of the rim. And we're just gonna keep doing this until we get all the layers of this wheel. And you'll notice it does get to a point where it's gonna be inlaid a bit. So that's what changes the perspective a bit.
Nice. And we'll go in with the shape builder and cut and
you got
tuck wherever we need to.
We're like plastic surgeons.
Yeah, exactly. Car surgeons.
It's like, I wanted that squatty look. What can you do for me?
You got to get in the gym. Get that squatty look. Yeah, I think it's a really good idea to jump around your illustration, not only for getting bored as the artist, but also to keep like a even level of finish across everything, so nothing gets too Rembrandt while something else is looking Picasso.
That's a good way of putting it.
I was like trying to think of artists on the fly and my brain was just empty. I'm glad I got those two.
No, that definitely works. Let's see.
Blake is wondering, what time does this start tomorrow? We'll be back at 9:30 Pacific time again tomorrow. 2-hour streams, working in Photoshop tomorrow. We're in Illustrator today. And I'll just remind everyone while we're working that we have a whole day of streaming coming up right after this as well. So we have the schedule slide. We've got the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge coming up right after us. So I think Dinesh was wondering earlier where to start in Illustrator. The stream right after this is going to be great for beginners. And then you can work alongside, have some projects to be proud of. And then after that, we're going to be jumping into XD. Then we've got the XD Daily Creative Challenge. And then we have Creative Encore to finish out the day with Voodoo Val. So we're going to be rewatching a Design Off episode, but we're going to keep the chat open so we can all hang out.
Oh, that's fun. That was actually one of the last streams I did with Adobe. It was with Voodoo Val, and we did a Design Off. And it's talk about a fun process, because I was pretty nervous that you don't know what you're going to be illustrating the day of. So what we ended up doing was kind of drawing from a hat. And then
Oh,
we just got some random words that we compiled all the words to begin with, but we had no clue what we were gonna have to draw and then illustrate. So it was kind of a weird challenge at first, and then once we got in the groove, it was like, wow, this is interesting for me to watch. I sure didn't know what I was doing.
so how did it turn out? Did you like what
It
you
was
made?
cool. I did. So I ended up picking. I think it was one of the words was lightsaber, putt putt, wizard, I believe, and or witch. It was one of those two, and bottle cap. I think that was it. And I ended up doing a scene that I just made up of the Ice King, pulling some magic. Oh, mixtape was another word, and he had a magic mixtape, and I had the Penguins, Gunter, and some of the other clan in the background playing putt putt, and then fighting with a lightsaber.
Jeez, what a complex
Yeah,
illustration to just
I
do on the
know.
fly.
I had no clue I was going to illustrate Adventure Time either, which is fun.
Yes. Okay. I'm so glad you're an Adventure Time fan. And chat, I
Yes.
have it open on my screen. Paco, maybe we can pop it over. Oh, I'm not sharing anymore. I will share real quick so you can all see this awesome Ice King illustration. There we go. When you first said Ice King, I thought you meant the Night King. I was like, oh, Game of Thrones.
No, it could have been. Yeah, he's sort of like a wizard, right? It's magic.
Yeah, different sort of magic.
It's a type of magic with a bad ending, right?
Yeah,
Is that how it goes for Game of Thrones?
probably. So I'm, like I said, excited to see that you like Adventure Time. What are your other inspirations or favorite things to watch?
I mean, let's see. If it was animated, I do love Adventure Time. Rick and Morty is a good one.
Yes.
Let's see. South Park. Pretty much grew up watching them. Amazing. I don't know. I love movies. I'm a huge. What's his name? Sorry, blanking.
That's okay. You're working very hard.
I figure out this wheel real quick. I know it's gonna be in the back. Christopher Nolan. Sorry. There we
Okay.
go. So Christopher Nolan. He also came out with the new movie. What is it? Tenet. Has anyone watched that?
I want to.
Have you not seen it?
No, I heard it was kind of Inception-y, which I'm
is.
very into.
It's pretty complex. I like to tell people whenever I'm talking about it, it's like, Inception. It took me probably 3-4 times before I sort of understood it, if I really did or not. I think it's gonna take maybe 6 times watching this one to understand it fully, because I still don't understand it completely. It's pretty intense, but it's a really good movie though. Super long.
Perfect. Perfect for quarantine.
Yeah, seriously, that's a good point.
Jason in the chat says, Tenet is crazy good and very confusing.
Yeah, there you go. That should be a design challenge of its own. It's like, illustrate something that truly defines what that movie is.
Yes. Visually just does not make sense.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. That's probably the last large, like, action-packed movie I've seen that's new. That's the sad thing about this quarantine and just the pandemic. So much has been put on hold, and movies. I mean, I wouldn't say it's more important than all the chaos that's going on, but it is sad to see a lot of movies get delayed because
Right.
I really enjoy them.
Right. We started a book club before quarantine started for Dune to celebrate the movie coming out, and then that movie got pushed very far in the future.
Seriously.
So it's like, well, I guess we all just read Dune. That's cool.
You get to read it again.
Yeah. Nice. So you're out of outline mode. You're checking out those shapes.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if what I'm doing is making sense or not. I think it's fine. Do need to connect this piece.
That's the fun thing about Shape Builder. So if it's like 1 pixel off, it's like, there's no shape here.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, I will say about Shape Builder, at least from my experience, make sure you don't have snap to pixel or snap to section or anything like that on, because you will never connect those pixels because it's always going to just either be too far under or too far over.
Yeah.
If you're
It's
doing
like
those settings.
2 magnets trying to be pushed together. It's
yeah,
like, nope.
That's a perfect way of saying it. It really is. Let's see. I'm just going to use some temporary colors just so I can get some definition here.
Nice. And I'm curious, while you're building, do you try to build from back, like furthest away to closest, so that when you're adding these colors, they like make sense? I guess you don't have to because you use Shape Builder.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have to. I just sort of jump into it based on the shape that I can visually wrap my head around first. It's like, okay, if I start with that hood, then I can get the other side of the windshield, and those are 2 big pieces of the whole piece, right?
Yeah.
So I sort of think about it like that. And then once you start looking at it after you've built 1 or 2 of these pieces, you'll say, oh, well, this needs to be another piece here, because there's a angle piece that's in front. But like I said, what we're doing now is we're just sort of building this shape out. The color is going to help us navigate that a little bit more. And you'll notice that a lot of the shapes are kind of out of order. Either they're on top or under.
Yeah.
So this is where it comes into play.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of meaning when I was asking that. Like, do we need to build them in order? But kinda.
Yeah, it does help if you're not confused. I mean, there's plenty of times where I'm not, and it's like I can outline mode, and it's like, okay, I know this shape is that, and kind of navigate. But there are times where I'm like, I am too confused. I need to delete all this and just start over because I don't know where I'm at.
Yeah.
Which it happens. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Sort of trying to figure that out right now. There we go.
Perfect.
And then we're gonna have to do that again. Don't need that shape. Don't need that one. Let's see. There we go. Yep.
We got some depth coming through.
Starting to shape up, right?
Ha.
And again, these colors, they're just temporary. I'm just trying to figure out where everything is. But sometimes I do stumble upon a color palette. I'm like, oh, that actually works, and I'll sort of stick to it.
Do you do most of your coloring in Photoshop or Illustrator?
It's sort of both. So what I found, if I'm coming up with a completely original color palette, I will sort of tweak it in Illustrator and kind of play with it for a minute to where I get the tones and the shades and everything like that closer to what makes sense to my idea. And then I'll grab everything, throw it in Photoshop, tweak it with a curve or enhance it with some layers, and then grab that image and throw it back in Illustrator. And then I'll just eyedropper tool, select all colors type deal. But I've seen other people, if you can key up your color in your color swatches to where they're live, and then you could just change your swatches on the fly, and then it would change everywhere it's being used.
Yeah.
That's another way. I want to dig into that a bit more. I've seen that used quite a few times, and it's like, that makes a lot of sense.
Right. It's like it might take some time to set up, but it's worth the time saved.
It really is. Who was it? It was Chutzpah. I believe. I believe someone, one of those designers was on the chat. I think I saw it from them, and I was like, that's a pretty good idea. Haven't initiated it yet. I need this shape. Oh, no.
Come on, Illustrator.
This is where it's totally my fault. Could layer it better. This could be a situation where I just maybe have this wheel on one layer.
Yeah, right. Just focus on it.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't get crazy with everything else.
Boom. Look at that.
It's a little wheel. Okay. Now we need to figure out the car again. So let's go ahead, turn this outline mode again. Let's see. I don't think I like this top portion. Or this. So I'm gonna restart that part. It's a bunch of trial and error. You know, the biggest thing that I could say about working in Illustrator 6 years ago compared to now, it's about being comfortable with undoing. I feel like back then I was so nervous, like, I don't know what to do here. So I would just sort of think about it too much and go nowhere. I feel like these days, it's like, just make a move. If it doesn't work, back out. You just have to figure it out. It's trial and error sometimes. But
right.
As long as you can visualize it, you can, 9 times out of 10, you can kind of get to where you're going.
Right. And if you hate what you did, it will probably push you closer to what you want because you'll know why you hated it.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah. And pixels and vectors are free. So there's no price to dropping one and then deleting it.
Yeah, seriously.
I was using the app Duolingo last night to practice a second language. And they have this part of it where if you make a mistake, you like lose quote unquote life. And like, that's how they make you pay for it. Cause you have to like buy life if you make too many mistakes. Really? And I was like, what if like Adobe products were like that? What if you, every time you undo, you only get like so many?
I would be owing them money.
Right.
More money.
Goodness gracious.
It's like no more undos. So what's the chat saying? Any questions or problems you guys are running into for the work you're on? What is everyone
please let
working
us
on?
know. I'm curious. Someone earlier said that they were working on a secret creative project, and I didn't get the chance to ask them. So hopefully they're still wondering.
I wonder what the secret creative project is.
I know. Ernesto is wondering if you ever look for new reference in the middle of making an illustration, like maybe this reference image isn't working for you.
Yes, I actually would. Probably not on a live stream though.
Right.
I definitely would stop and sort of look at my reference material again just to see what's not working. Because it happens. It happens a lot.
Yeah, you like use the license plate number to contact the owner. Like, can I come take some more pictures of this car?
Seriously, you're gonna have some dead air in about 2 minutes. I'm gonna run down the street and look for this car.
Take us with you. Do a little live stream from your phone.
We're going mobile.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Oh man, that's the world we're in sort of now.
Yeah.
Everything's on the go. I've pretty much been freelancing remotely and on the go for, ever since all this craziness happened. So that's another weird thing. I don't know if a lot of you are thinking about that, but it kind of dawned on me. I was like, wait a minute, like I could be anywhere. I could do anything as long as I have my laptop and my drawing tablet. It's like, it's all mobile. And you think about jobs and how a lot of times a lot of these companies never would let you work remote, and you have to work remote now.
It's interesting to think about how it's going to change the face of work forever in the future.
Don't need an office.
No, I don't need an office when I have my dog at home. I can just hang out with him.
Seriously.
Somebody was wondering, any tips for drawing in perspective? So you're kind of doing that right now.
Yeah. So I could start the side of this car. So the best tip I would say is most of my perspective that I draw in, it's only built around probably four, sometimes only two different angles. And I'm just repeating like that angle all the way through. So if I was to put that in action, this is the top of the car. This is the angle I was going to go with. I'm going to drag this down, and that's going to be the bottom of the window now, because all that should be in the same sort of angle.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing with that, especially using a reference image like what I'm doing here, is it gets to a point where you're going to have to drag your stuff over and just go off of what you see, rather like go off of what you see as a reference, not as go off of what's in front of that image. Because you could see that these two angles that's going to make the window is not the same angle as that car. So if you're looking at my screen, that's where this kind of comes into play. But this is the angles that I'm going to use throughout. So let's say this is the window, and then what else do we have on the car here? We have the door handles, we have this little molding, and then there's sort of some grooves in the door that kind of wave, little wavy angles like that. All those should be the same sort of angle.
Yeah,
So,
you run into that skew when like you're using a reference image. I think that's in like 2-point perspective, and what you're making is really just like parallel lines. Those lines are never going to meet in the distance.
And the only thing that gets tricky with using this type of perspective is circles. So anything circular, you'll realize that you can't just duplicate as easy, and just angles are tricky. So a lot of times you have to sort of position those and eye them up, like even with this wheel, because the wheel's going to start to look funny after a while, but we'll fix it.
We'll fix it.
We'll fix it. Get it?
Yeah, the good thing about the wheel is it's pretty dark and pretty small, so it's not going to be too distracting, hopefully.
And we're probably going to make them smaller wheels just to enhance the squattiness, right?
Yes. Gotta have tiny wheels.
Tiny wheels are a plus.
Tiny wheels, tiny lights.
Seriously. Okay, so let's see. The back of the car I'm looking at, trying to figure out a way to sort of finish this piece in, which we could just do. Watch this. And I'll drag parts of the car on and off of the reference just to view it from different points. It helps.
Nice.
So I'm going to build this bumper. So I'm seeing the thicker portion like that. I'm going to connect these two dots. So I'm seeing that. I'm going to drag this below it. Sort of comes in a little bit. It's probably like, okay. I need to close these off so my shape builder will work. Do something like this. Copy, Command Z. That's my go-to move right there.
Paste her in.
So I think there's a little groove somewhere in between this.
Oh yeah, I see that.
Yeah, it's something faint. Barely see it. I'm pretty sure it would come outward like that. And then copy. Let's bring this up. It's going to be an angle, so it doesn't matter too much what we do to it. Something like that.
Nice.
All right. Let's go back to this mess.
The mess that will be a masterpiece.
No, it's going to be peeling out in 2 days.
Peeling out, doing donuts.
We got a road trip in 2 days. Here we go.
Let's go. Got to build it. Wheels up. Ernesto is wondering what bumper sticker would we put on this car, or are we even pro bumper sticker?
This little thing's gonna have some bumper stickers.
For
First
sure.
off, I've already planned it. The license plate in the front's gonna be Creative Pain, so
Yes.
we're gonna see that on there. And maybe that's something that we could start it today and maybe end it tomorrow. What are some bumper stickers we need to have on it? Or stickers in general. We could put stickers on the window. We'll figure that out.
Yeah, maybe some tickets under the
Ooh,
windshield.
that's a good, yeah.
That's funny you said that. Ernesto, I think above said that that license plate should be Creative Pain.
Mm-hmm.
Same line of thinking.
Ernesto knows it.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to Ernesto quite a bit through Instagram, and it's one of those things where social media and the world that we're in is it's so interesting. I've never met Ernesto, but I've talked to him plenty of times about design and art and just back and forth, and it's just like creating a friendship through social media is pretty cool.
Yeah, especially this year. Like all my friends are online friends these days.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that I'm quote unquote seeing.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tyler, what are your favorite ways to kind of build creative community? I think you're kind of on top of it. You've got some things going on, different live streams. What else do you do?
I definitely try to. Before the pandemic, I was actually going and giving talks and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
I really enjoy that the most. It's really fun to meet these people and just put a face to it, and also put a face to me. You know, even though you're seeing a stream and all the work that I do, it's just different. To meet someone in person, which is what I miss so much about going to expos or design conferences. And I know whenever I was starting out, that was the biggest part of it. It was just meeting these people and seeing what's happening on the front line, and I love to do that as much as I can. Nowadays, I mean, it really is sort of back to streams. I mean, I try to talk and comment to everyone who reaches out to me. It's pretty simple to do for me. I don't know. I just try to create as much work so that people can see and hopefully get inspired. I think that's kind of what it comes back to. Hopefully, something I can create that's fun for me to make can inspire someone else to do something cool too.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I'm glad that you're willing to share your process. Some people aren't. They're a little more close to the chest, but it's really cool to see how you make these really complex works of art.
Yeah, I try to encourage it. Basically, there really isn't a real secret to this. I mean, if you're seeing this live, and if you saw where we started, we're kind of, working through it, and that's kind of a lot of the process. It's like, oh, it's problem solving. It's like, oh, this is a shape I kind of understand. What if we do this with it? What if we change the style to this? It changes, the principles of it. But it just takes time. I think that's what I always tell everyone. It's like, be patient. You have to work through it.
Yep. You'll feel your brain growing bigger as you continue to work through it.
Exactly. Let's see. I think there. Sort of looking at my reference at the same time, trying to see what we can make here.
It's really coming together.
Yeah, it's starting to look a little squatty.
Uh-huh.
That's going to be the best takeaway for me. It's like I've got a new lingo for this illustration.
Yes.
I don't know if it's already been out there. Please let us know in the chat, but I think we might have something.
Erica says, it's happening. I feel it.
I know we're a part of a movement right now. I want to see everyone squatty car by the end of the week.
Yes. Okay, boss.
It's like, what are we working for right here? What kind of factory is this? Squatty Car Factory. I don't know.
Don't ask questions.
Yeah. You got quotas.
Yes.
Let's see. Let's turn this off. Let's see what we're working with here. This shape. I'm just going to fill this in for the sake of the look. So what are the New Year's resolutions? Do people do that anymore?
Chat, let us know. What's everyone working on? I feel like this year it might be very polarized, like either definitely not or definitely yes.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right.
Erica didn't realize that we were in outline mode. Yeah, Erica,
Yeah,
magic.
This wheel is going to be, I think, in front of that. This wheel needs to go behind that. Oh, classic mistake here.
Oh no.
I accidentally unlocked my background layer and was illustrating on my background layer.
Oh no.
All right, it's all good. Caught it. So this is how we're gonna sort of visualize how to do these fenders. Again, this just helps me visualize. None of these lines are probably gonna stay, but I just need something to reference.
Yeah, you're kind of sketching with shapes.
Mm-hmm.
We have some very polarized answers for the New Year's resolutions.
Oh, what do we have?
Some people are working on like new design accounts and trying to create more. Some people are just saying that they want to make it to 2022. That would be great.
Yeah.
Agreed.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I think I'm somewhere in the middle. Like, just keep on keeping on.
Just keep swimming, right?
Yeah, but also like trying to do my best in this hand that we've been dealt. And someone was asking about your Cintiq, and I'm curious because personally I feel like using an Illustrator with a pen is difficult for me, but that's what you're doing. So tell me about your workflow with using a Cintiq with Illustrator.
I've gotten to a point where I need it. I love it. I started on the first Wacom Cintiq I bought. It was like a 27-inch back in 2013 or so, and it's been great. I just dove right into it. I put these parameters on myself where I was like, I know this thing's expensive. I don't know if I can get used to it. I've never used a stylus. I was illustrating with a mouse.
Wow.
And I just thought of it as a prompt for me to get better. I was like, well, if I invest in that, I know I'm not going to just buy it and not use it because I just put a bunch of money into it. So if I just buy it, I know I'll work on it and I'll make a promise to work on it every day, which I told you earlier in the conversation. We were talking about, every day, like, Monday through Sunday after work, I was still illustrating. I was still working, just creating these new series and just coming up with something new to enjoy illustrating. It was during that time. So I just recently bought that Wacom and it gave me incentive to just illustrate more. And since then, I've been able to work with Wacom, which is really cool. And that's like a dream, which came from last year because of the pandemic and everything going remote and streaming. And I was able to get in touch with them, and it's just been a dream. And, now I have it's like a 32-inch Wacom Cintiq, which is pretty massive. But it's a great tool. I would strongly encourage it if you're just trying to get into illustrating. I know a lot of people love to say, do you do the Cintiq or do you do iPad? I don't have an iPad. I probably should explore it some more because I know there's a lot of potential to it. But I really enjoy my Cintiq. It's been a workhorse.
Yeah, they are great pieces of hardware.
Mm-hmm.
100% agree. I do most of my work on the iPad these
Oh.
days,
Mm-hmm.
but if I had a big old Cintiq, I know that I would be using it because they're just awesome.
How do you like the iPad then? Because I'm.
I
Oh,
I like it.
yeah.
I do like it, but I think it's great for the type of work that I do, which is a little more
Mm-hmm.
like painterly. Like it feels more, I don't know, intuitive.
Okay.
It doesn't really feel like I'm using tech. It kind of just feels like
Mm-hmm.
I'm using a paper and pencil,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah. I think it would be something that I'd enjoy, like on a flight or waiting somewhere or, completely remote in the realm where I don't have a laptop. Because I do need my laptop with me every time I'm traveling or doing something like that. And I have a smaller Cintiq tablet that's like, I think it's a 16-inch,
Hmm.
which that I take everywhere, and it's perfect. If you're ever to get a size for a Cintiq, I would say get the smaller one because
Oh,
you can, if you can find something that you can put in a book bag, then even if you have a desktop or anything like that, you could just pull that out and work on at your desktop, or you could travel with it, which is, like we mentioned, everyone is more mobile than ever before. So it definitely helps to have the accessibility to do that.
totally. Part of the reasoning that I like to use the iPad is that I have this like mental block of once I'm done working for the day, I don't want to
Mm.
look at a screen
Mm-hmm.
anymore. And
Yeah.
to me, that more means like I don't want to sit at my desk and like look at my monitor
Mm-hmm.
anymore. So using an iPad is like I can be on the couch, I'm
Uh,
drawing, I'm not like scrolling, there's nothing else going on.
yeah.
So that's kind of my thought.
No, that's a good one. I feel like that sometimes because I'm pretty stuck to a desk. I'm glued to a desk, or I need a table. So there is no really drawing on a couch for
Right.
my parameters here. But I dream of those days.
Well, speaking of that, Erica's wondering, have you ever tried out Illustrator on the iPad?
No, I don't have an iPad.
Yeah, but you could have tried it,
I
maybe.
know. No, I used an iPad once that a friend of mine had,
Hmm.
and he was using. Is it Procreate? Is that the big
Hmm.
tool on there? He was using that, and I got as much as you can get from it in 10 minutes of sitting down with it. But the pen really seemed nice. I'll give you that.
Definitely.
The Apple
Illustrator on the
Pen.
iPad's a little bit newer. And I could see you doing some really cool, sketchy stuff, just dropping points, building
Mm-hmm.
shapes.
I think you're right. I definitely think you're right.
Zachary wants to know, did it take some time to get used to illustrating on glass as opposed to the texture that paper provides?
Well, a Wacom isn't glass. So an
Mm.
iPad would be glass. So the Wacom has a pretty interesting feel. It's almost like a textured feel to it because I think it's like a plastic. So
Yeah, it
whenever
feels
you're
like paper.
gliding, yeah. So when you're gliding across it feels nice. I like it.
Yep, I totally agree.
But I think it is a game changer though. Whenever I switch from a mouse to a pen, uh, I almost think it's quicker for my workflow now. But I do have a mouse close by, so
In case.
yeah.
Yeah, for some reason, dropping points with a pen, I think it's like the movement of my arm. Like it
Mm-hmm.
gets tiring, but dropping points
Really?
with a mouse, it's like less real estate to have to navigate.
Mm-hmm. Change the angle at the top of this little guy. Let's see, outline, zoom in. Need to match this line up with these intersecting points. Oops.
Come on, Illustrator.
I don't know.
Nice.
I also noticed that some of these angles are not lining up.
That's the worst when you zoom in and you're like, oh no.
I know, especially after you've been so sure of yourself. It's like, oh, I know those points are right on point, and it's like, no.
People are
Afraid not.
curious about what like hotkeys and shortcuts that you use and what shortcuts you have hotkeyed into your pen.
Well, I keep everything pretty stocked, so I don't really customize it too much. I like to keep it whatever the essential settings are, because I'm switching from a desktop to a laptop a lot, and sometimes I just maybe I'm lazy and I just don't switch all the settings over, but I like to keep it pretty simple. I will say the key commands that I use a lot, spacebar. I mean, that is the best way to navigate your artboard, period. If you hold the spacebar, you get the hand tool. Hand tool is just a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Let's see, pen tool, obviously I'm using a lot. That's, if you just click P, and then you're able to use all these points. Here's a good one for the pen tool. And it was like a point where I'm by no means a master of the pen tool, but I think this was a game changer. So let's say you're working with these angles that come from the points that you plot. Let's say you want to change the angle of the next point, and a lot of times people would back out, get the direct select tool, and then change that angle. But if you hold Option, it changes the cursor to that angle tool. You see? So
Yes.
if you hold Option, then you're able to grab that guy and then plot your next point without switching the tool from your panel. So I'm able to do this like super fast where I'm doing this type of stuff,
Nice.
and that's how a lot of times you'll see people switching with key commands to work faster. And you could also, you know, just the Option tool is just a really fun tool to mess with these angles.
Yeah, I always like to see what tool is hidden by pressing the Option tool. It's usually super handy for whatever you need.
Yeah, because otherwise you would have to do Shift C, which gives you this same tool. And it's just like one additional step that you don't need if you're just plotting points, like for instance, drawing these cars or anything. The car's a little easier because it's more angular and less curved, but we'll get in the curves down the road. I think right now we're just trying to get the squat right.
Get that squat right.
I know, it's just about the squats.
So somebody in chat has a good idea. So this car reminds them of a pizza delivery car, but maybe instead of the like Domino's sign on the top, it's the Creative Pain logo on top.
That's a winner. Who said
Nice. That is Impossibly Awesome Design Co.
I know. That's good. Thank you. I will use that.
Very nice. We love community. This is what it's all about.
I know. Okay, let's see. Delete this one, delete that one. There we go.
This whole process is really reminding me of like technical design or industrial design, even like the angles staying the same, just building something out like it's a 3D object.
Yeah, I've had so many people reach out and say, that would be way easier to do in a 3D program. And it's like, you're probably right, but I don't know how to work in a 3D program, so I'm making do. Which I will say I've been saying for the past year, I want to work in Blender. I don't know is anyone in the chat familiar with Blender and 3D illustrating?
Yeah, let us know. I dropped out of my 3D illustration class in college because I was like, no, thank you.
I wish, my school didn't have that. I wish I had the opportunity. Yeah, I've always been fascinated with 3D. At this point, I'm just cheating out and saying that I don't have time to learn it. But I do have it downloaded and I will get to it.
Okay.
I always get to it. I just don't know when.
I think that you would take to it like a fish in water, judging by how you're building your illustrations.
I'm curious to find out. But I love work that's made in that program. It's just so
Mm-hmm.
fun. I'm curious to this because I use Instagram as like an inspirational site. So I've curated to where I'm only following designers or just forms of art and stuff like that. And I start saving different posts in folders, and I have a 3D folder, and a lot of it's this Blender type stuff. And oh man, it just brings a smile on my face. Is that Mario behind you?
Yeah. Just gonna go off and do some Mario things. But a lot of people in chat are saying that they want to learn 3D as well, and maybe it could be a
Hmm.
challenge that everyone could do together.
I know. Maybe that's something we could all do, and we can equal playing field. We can all be there
Mm-hmm.
and see where we go in a couple months.
Yes.
Could be interesting.
There you go. Jason says that they just started. Golden says that they've played around with it and want to learn it this year.
Nice.
Ernesto wants to learn it as well.
Yeah, it's exciting, and it's funny too to think back at for me, I think about Adobe, and it's like, when was the first time I started using the program to like officially stamp it? First time ever, I was in college when I was in Illustrator, and I think it was maybe my sophomore junior year, and that feeling of just jumping in, it's like, what are these tools? I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like that's what it's going to be like.
probably. But then after a while, you're going to be like, oh, this is second
Mm,
nature.
hopefully, yeah. It would be interesting. I think it would be fun though, if anything. I wonder if we should make his windshield higher up.
Oh, I thought that might be a little antenna.
Oh, it does need an antenna. You're right about that one.
And what are we going to put on top of it? Chat, help us.
I think if we put a big pizza slice and made it into
Mhm.
a pizza car,
Pizza car.
that would be really fun. You know how like the old school ice cream trucks are with the big ice cream cone on top?
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be great.
So you've mentioned a few times your college experience, and I'm curious about that. Where
Hmm.
were you then? And then did you think that you were going to be doing what you're doing now when you were in college?
Yeah. Whenever I was in high school, I knew I was gonna go into graphic design. Um, I'd always known that, and it's funny. The way I found out that I wanted to do that was, you know, pretty primitive, or I guess ridiculous, because I literally just Googled it. I was like, what can I do with this, and this, and this? And at the time, I've always been into art. I've always been into drawing, but I loved a mixed media portion of that. I was never highly focused on one of them. So I was like, how could I use all these things I like? And it was graphic design. That's kind of how it came about. I didn't have a clue really what it was in high school. We didn't have a computer class or anything like that. So figuring it out, I then was on a destination of pursuing that as a career. And then for school, I went to a local school for me. I'm from South Carolina.
Hmm.
So there was a local university, Francis Marion University. It's more so known for business and nursing than design and art. But I was able to get a bachelor's of arts there, and I've graduated with a visual communication. But that's kind of what got me started.
Nice. And you've just kind of continued down that
Oh,
road. And
just kept with it. Yeah, I've just enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. I like to always reference it. It's problem solving. It's really what it is to me. It's just, there is a solution. We just need to figure out what it is. And
yes.
it's what I love about branding and logo design the most. Is it's like, all right, we can figure this out. What are the parameters? And then you go from there.
Yes. That's always so fun when you have
Mm-hmm.
that new challenge and you're like, all right, how we're going to make this
Exactly.
look squatty and fly.
Exactly. I'm just waiting for the day the door's gonna knock and they're like, I want some squatty designs. What do you got? I was like, well, let's step in the garage.
Yeah, Jack Black's gonna knock, not Jack Black, Jack White is gonna knock on your door.
I don't know. Jack Black might actually want a squatty car too.
Yeah, like, okay, Jack Black, you can have one too.
Wait, Tenacious D. By the way,
Yes.
funny, amazing music.
Yes, I went to one of their concerts for my
Oh,
birthday
really?
last year. Yeah, it was sweet.
Oh man, I I had a chance to see them at a festival. I think it was maybe 3, 4 years ago, and we had to leave before they went on. So it was like a 3 day festival, and we had to leave before that, and that was the closest I've ever been.
Darn it. It'll happen again. I
Hmm.
know it.
I was actually watching Tenacious D Pick of Destiny a couple days ago again, and hilarious. It's really funny.
Look at that.
Yeah, got a little squat here. I think this
So
is.
Blake says that they Googled careers for doodlers in high school, and that's how they
Yeah,
chose what they wanted to do. Blake, what do you do now? Or what are you pursuing? I'm
seriously,
curious.
it makes me feel better about it because I used to be like, how did I come about this? It's like I just Googled it. I didn't know what I was doing, and it's like, yeah, that a lot of people do that. It's okay.
Yes. Ooh.
Create these angles real quick.
So when you take this into Photoshop, do you think you'll take it in just as outlines, or will you have like a base level of color in there?
Uh, so there, I'll take out the whole illustration. I'll sort of have the color palette down by
Hmm.
that point, and once I get into Photoshop, I'll probably enhance it a little bit with some
Gotcha.
settings, but it shouldn't be too different from where we are. I mainly use the textures in Photoshop. I find it to be a little more versatile, which I've seen people do completely vectorized textures, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
I I tried doing it a long time ago. I should probably try it again. But the first thing I noticed was my machine slowed down so much that it would barely move because of so many points in there. And I wasn't doing like any sort of rastered image or anything. I was like fully textured.
Oh
And
my gosh.
yeah, it was the end of that experience because I couldn't even work. The computer was so slow.
Yeah, you go into outline mode and it's like,
Hmm.
oh my
It's a
gosh.
war zone. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how some people can do it, but I found that, I'll just kind of stick to Photoshop for my textures. It works.
Built for it.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's see if we can figure out these windows. I think. All right.
Nice.
And then let's do path offset. Offset it in.
This is one of my favorite tools in Illustrator that I feel like a lot of people don't know
Mm-hmm.
about.
It's a fun one. It was a game changer. You know, one that I recently, I probably said this in one of my last streams months ago. It's not recent anymore. I love the blend tool. That is a
Yes.
really good tool. Like once I started to sort of understand what it was doing, it made so much sense.
Yeah. So what kind of stuff do you blend? Is it to get like a gradient or is it more to
Uh,
make a
not
pattern?
to duplicate shapes across the 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say if I had, you know, one circle like that and then one circle like this, and I needed this to gradually get bigger. Before I would sit there and try to say, oh, well, let's do this technically. I could probably do, all right, so many inches larger, right? And then I would have that gradient. But once I realized that you can do like the blend tool, which Command Option B, it will do it for you. And then if you go over here to, where is it? What's that? Blend tool setting. I think it's right here. Yeah. if you go into here, then you can kind of designate the distance between. Have you ever used this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this was the game changer for me. I was like, oh man, because I do a lot of little intricate things where it's like, oh, I need to have, appropriately spaced objects across the board. And this kind of helped me.
Yes, it's so great for making like textures as well, like making hair. I worked on a tutorial where we were making a jellyfish, so there were some tentacles that used the blend tool.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. Chat, if you have not used it, just go ahead, play with it. It's amazing.
Yeah, strongly encourage that.
Cool, so we're using the same angle here.
Mm-hmm. And I think it actually gets wider at the bottom of this window, so that's gonna get to be a little more unique.
Ooh.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And oops.
Oh.
Okay. Just keep this temporary since I know this is going to change a little bit, but it starts to help us visualize it a bit more. I think that's the best thing. I really do is it just gets, if you can visualize it, you can usually achieve it. And it's definitely what I would speak to. I have to at least understand where I'm at and where it could go, and then I can sort of get there.
Right, and just kind of break things down to their smallest components and build from there, or biggest components, I guess.
Exactly. And then these windows should be a little larger, so I'm probably going to start tweaking the angles a bit.
Ooh.
Let's see what we can do. If we grab this, I don't know if this is going to mess everything up.
Almost looks like a limousine now, just by dragging those windows down a little bit. I'm not sure why that changed in my head.
It does. Let's see what we can do here to make this look right.
That changes everything.
And it'll mess up the windows, but maybe we'll redo the windows because I like the front and the center part of it.
Yeah, it's looking a little bit flatter in front.
Mm-hmm. I think that might have been worth doing. And I'll just redo this.
I think that was a really important step to kind of take this a step further from the reference and make it like your perfect Pixar car.
Exactly, yeah. And it's loosely based off of it.
Oh,
Still
totally.
a ways to go, but we'll get there.
We will get there. In chat, we've got about 20-ish minutes left in the stream. So if you have any last minute questions, let's get those in the chat so Tyler can address them and bestow his knowledge. But we'll be back tomorrow too.
Yes. Yeah, and just to recap, we started with this reference image, and I took this image on a walk. I think it was like, what did I say, Saturday? And I have this sort of a bank of reference materials, and I have this series where I've been doing these little cars and sort of making squatty cars out of things that look funny in reality. I don't know. This is one of those that falls under that category. I thought it was a funny looking car. It's a little Honda Civic. I think it's like an 80s model. But I wanted to take a picture of that and kind of bring it into here and show you how I sort of use reference materials loosely with a concept that I sketched down here. And then even further than that, I'm sort of pushing it into its own little realm. And hopefully we'll have a custom little squatty car.
Custom squatty car.
And yeah, we got to put a little pizza delivery sign on top.
Yes, definitely. I can't wait till we get to those little details.
Yeah, that's definitely exciting. I didn't even think about that, so that's a great tip for whoever said that.
And possibly awesome design or something along those lines.
Fast designs.
.net.
Yeah. Fast designs or you get it for free. I don't want to hear that, but that's probably what needs to be on this.
Oh no. Oh no.
It's going to make everyone mad.
Yes.
It's like, what are you doing? Let's see, what should we do here? We're messing with this window, but something's weird about this angle now. This is how I'll test it sometimes. I'll grab that angle, copy it, stretch it out. I know that this angle should be the same throughout. So the point of that windshield should lead up to here.
Boop.
Okay. And then let's see what else we got. That bumper should be lined up to there. I think we could probably get rid of this piece.
Nice.
And we'll fix all the overhang. As long as we can get that concept to look like what we originally intended, which, like we said, squatty, #squatty cars. Come on, there we go, that's close enough. Delete this, get that out of the way. We're just trying to see and visualize everything and make sure it looks to the proportions that we want.
Yeah, it's looking better already.
Then see the bottom of the car. That angle looks like it's still the same. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Now we can figure out this window.
Back to outline mode. Back to the drawing board.
Back to the drawing board. Okay. And we're going to use one of your favorite tools again.
Da 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 da. Offset path, baby.
I should probably make that into a key command, a custom one, because I do use that a lot.
I used it a lot while designing like t-shirts that have like a crest in the middle, so they had to have a lot of like concentric circles or text on a curve. It was very super easy.
Okay. I know that the car door sort of has a curve in it and the top portion, and then a curve in the bottom portion. So we're gonna have to try to make the car bulge out a little bit.
Nice.
Oops. Let's get this line out of that group.
Oh, you have some things grouped. I was just gonna ask.
So like this, the windows got grouped whenever I was cropping everything. And I grouped the bumper too. Just there's a lot of little pieces in there. What's the chat thinking? Any comments on this squatty guy? Are we nailing it down, or is it still looking off? Again, a little ways to go.
Oh, totally. They're still making puns about pizza delivery and graphic design.
Nice.
Like unlimited design changes instead of unlimited toppings.
20 minutes or less, or it's free.
Oh gosh. Don't even. Yeah, chat, let us know if you have any thoughts on the squattiness level. Should we increase, decrease? Just keep going? I say we just keep swimming.
Keep swimming.
Samuel says that seeing a third tire will be helpful, which I'm sure we'll get to.
You're talking about one that would be somewhere over here?
Yeah.
I think it would be somewhere like that. We'll figure that out.
Peeking out, yes.
The way I would do that is I would find one of these straight angles. The windshield's a good one to start with. and
Uh-huh.
that figures
Nice.
out the playing field. And then this needs to go somewhere closer to the bumper.
There you go, third tire.
I want to make the wheels smaller, for sure.
Right, like little Hot Wheels.
Yeah. So we could just do that real quick. Let's see what happens.
What's up, D, in the chat? How you doing? Good to see you. And oh, I forgot to mention this. If anybody's watching on YouTube, I know we have a lot of people that like to watch on the Creative Cloud channel. Come on over to Behance, because that's where we're looking at the chat. That's where we can answer your questions. I'd hate to think that anyone was hanging out over in YouTube with their questions not being answered. So come on over.
Come on in. Squat Nation. I'm just going to keep blabbing that out. For everyone that's coming in and joining, we are making squatty cars.
Squat Squad.
Squat Squad. Trying to figure out some things here. I bet if I grab this.
I was just going to say the same thing.
And went out like that would give us the angle that we actually need for the car wheel well.
Man, I feel like this process of design, like from the outside perspective, might look really complex, but it's so nice to just have these angles built in that you can just copy paste.
Yeah, seriously, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, I think it is, but I've definitely been playing around with this for a while now.
Right.
Let's see. I think this needs to get closer to our new wheel well.
Shape builder.
Shape builder. I will say this, make sure you're saving a lot whenever you're using shape builder.
Oh.
I don't know if you've realized this, but I've had my machine crash so many times from using the shape builder. If you get very detailed in a lot of different objects, it can crash your machine. So I've lost work from that.
So speaking of, now's a good time to save. In chat, if you're working alongside us, please save your work.
Seriously.
Don't lose it.
Yeah, don't lose it. I actually want this shape.
Nice.
That makes me think of what's the longest or what's the most amount of work you've lost because you haven't saved it?
Oh boy.
How about that question for chat?
I don't even want to think about it. I think the last big project I lost was in school. So that's been a while, which is good. Good for me.
It happens. I know that. If it's for fun, I'll just lose track of time. And before you know it, I'm in the red zone of if you don't save this, you're going to lose hours of work. But it's been a while. I think luckily with the way Adobe has improved, where they have the autosave feature in it, and you can kind of set that up to where it saves it for you. That's really saved me a lot of times for recovering files.
Me too. Or my computer will die while I'm in the middle of something, and I'm like, I wasn't even thinking about that.
I know. It could be anything. I've had power go out once, and everything's wiped out, and that's the scariest one because not only am I worried about the file that I just worked on, but it's like, will my computer turn back on? I don't know.
Yeah.
It might not.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
At least Ernesto says that when he lost something, the second time he did it, it was a lot better.
That's true. That does help.
Yeah, it usually is true, but it still doesn't hurt, or it still doesn't fix the pain.
It doesn't feel good, no. All the time.
Oh no, Blake says that 10 hours of a final project were lost.
Oh, you're kidding.
So many tears.
Yep.
Glad Glad you made it past that, Blake.
Yeah, that's not fun.
Oh, man, there's a lot of sob stories in the chat right now. It's like, it's hard to read. I'm so sorry, everyone.
Sore
Ooh,
subject.
yeah. It reminds me of the feeling of when you're like in Photoshop and you're painting on the wrong layer for a long time.
Oh no, I have been there. And you can't Command Z out of it.
Too many Command Z's.
Yes, that's just as worse. I've experienced that one.
F in the chat for lost work. Yes. And also, speaking of saving, Cody reminds us to stretch our wrists and drink some water and just take care of yourself as an artist.
There
Your
you go.
body is your tool.
That's a life lesson right there.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're sitting at a desk.
Feels bad, man.
Mm-hmm. How many of people in the chat have standing desk, and do you like it?
Ooh. Yeah, chat, let us know. I have one and I never use it.
I just recently bought one, so I'm curious. I'm sitting down right now, but it's a bit weird. I spent 2 days in a row standing all the way up and drawing, but I have to sort of bend over a little bit still. I don't know. I was just curious. I was sore. I was definitely sore.
Tech neck for life, says Michael Jarrett. Oh, I know. So at my standing desk, the reason I don't use it is because it makes me feel anxious. It makes me feel like I'm like
Okay.
about to walk away, or like I'm like on a
Interesting.
time crunch, and that's why I'm standing up. It's like too powerful. I can't do it.
That's funny. I could see that because I don't know how many of you have typed emails standing up, hunched over, because like, oh, I'm just gonna type this real quick and I'm gonna run off, and it's like you're there for longer than 1 minute.
Yes.
It's like, wait a minute, I'm working this way. What am I doing?
And then you like start to, at least for me, I'd start to feel like annoyed or pressured about the email because I'm like, I gotta go.
Yep. It's like those people don't have a clue what it took to make that email.
Totally. But there's still like a smiley face in there, so they don't know.
That's exactly it.
Oh, Erica says the same thing about feeling anxious at a standing desk.
Interesting.
It also kind of feels like I'm waiting for something. Like kind of rocking back and forth. I don't know. There's so much psychology to work, I guess.
It really is.
Oh, Erica says that it is anxiety inducing because it reminds of working at a cash register. Totally.
I've never had to work at a register, but one of my jobs in college, I was working at a clothing store, and I would just fold clothes all day and have to help people find clothes. And it was such a weird thing because I didn't wear any of the clothes that I was selling, and I didn't really like the clothing I was selling or anything. Yeah. So I was sort of an oddball that just stayed in the corner and folded a bunch of shirts 100 times a day and occasionally helped someone. But I was looking at all the tags of all the shirts. I was like, oh, this is a pretty cool one. And then somebody would see me that I work with, like, what are you doing? It's like, look at these tags, man. They're pretty cool, right? like these come with stickers, and this one's made out of fabric. That's pretty interesting. He's like, what are you talking about?
Get to work.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That was the same thing for me, though. Like, even when I'm at a clothing store, at a thrift store, I'm always like looking at the tags because that's design. Somebody had to design that.
It really is.
In chat, yeah, we've got about 5 minutes left. And also a reminder for you, Tyler, we've got about 5 minutes left. So in a minute or two, we'll recap what's gone down in the last 2 hours and what we're going to be doing tomorrow. So while you're finishing up the last couple vectors. Maybe we can look at the schedule for tomorrow or for today. Right after this, we're going to have the daily creative challenge for Illustrator. Andrew Hockrattle is going to be hosting that. He's tons of fun, so stick around.
Awesome.
Yeah, after that, we've got some two XD streams. So we've got some mobile app design and then the XD daily creative challenge where you can learn the basics and get your first project going. And then at 2:30 Pacific time, we've got creative encore. Where we're going to watch a replay of a previous stream and just hang out in the chat. It's a great way to end the day. So that's coming up. Don't go anywhere. And then tomorrow we are going to be back at the same time, same place, working in Photoshop.
Yeah, I'll probably work on this a little bit more just to get it closer to where we want, but I'll definitely save the vector portion of whether or not we do a pizza on top or we do something else. I don't know. Maybe it's a pencil. What if it was a big pencil?
Yeah.
That could be something.
Someone was saying too, like they have those antenna toppers. So you could do like the pencil on that and then the pizza on the top.
I like that.
Who knows?
So I'll save that for all of us to walk through together, and then we'll jump into some Photoshop.
Perfect. And Ruthwick is wondering, are these streams a regular thing or is it happening on a special occasion? Nope, we're here every week, every day of the week. You can always hang out. And oh, I forgot to mention this. When Adobe Live is not live, like when these big screen streams are happening, you can always watch the users on Behance live streaming because we have some user live streaming happening there. So there should always be someone live that you can hang out with and chat with and learn from. Very cool.
Yeah, that's so cool that if you think about what 10 years ago or 20 years ago, the availability of finding other designers working live and also sharing what they know is on a free platform. That's pretty great.
Yeah, I think my first experience with that was in college, like watching my professors do a live demo, and that was amazing. Yeah. And now you can get it whenever you need.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. So we've got like 2 minutes left. Maybe we can really quickly go from where you started, what you did, and where we ended up today.
Awesome. Yeah, let's do that. All right, so we had began this whole process from a reference image. So I took this image last Saturday, and I'll bring this back up. So I just took this photo with my phone. I have this slight obsession with funny looking cars that remind me of, Pixar material or just some sort of cartoon. And I feel like a lot of these vintage 80 model type cars have that aesthetic is just so funny to look at. So I took a picture of this. I sort of started sketching a bit of where I could go with it. Again, I knew I was going to make this my primary focus for reference material, but it's always good to kind of think about where you're going, where you're heading with it. Because again, I think a lot of my process, and if you've stuck with us from the beginning, you'll realize that it's a lot of trial and error, but it's just figuring it out, what works, and trying to really encapsulize what's that end product. And for me, we decided, do we do all 4 wheels on one plane, like how this sketch is, or should we do it how I typically do, which is in more of a perspective view? So we decided to do the perspective view. This was the original that was going into more squattiest of the looks. And we started going from there, using my reference image to a point where we were just kind of drawing off to the side and just creating a bunch of shapes. And I'm primarily using the pen tool all the way through. A lot of duplicating the same, angles and parallel lines so that everything's very consistent on the sides that we're illustrating. Because I like to look at this as a 3-dimensional object. We have the front, we have the side, we have the top, and illustrating within those angles is really key for what we're doing here.
Awesome. And then tomorrow we're going to jump into Photoshop, finish her off. We're going to actually get cut off here in about 30 seconds, I think. So real quick, chat, you can follow Tyler on Instagram or Behance. We've got some links in the chat in the meantime. Stick around for the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge next. And Tyler, thanks for being here. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, guys. See ya.
Bye, everyone.